Backed by popular demand, we've got a roundup of some of the best everyday carry gear on Amazon under $50. We've got a few old favorites, a few new pickups. I can't wait. Let's get into it. First up are some Bluetooth earbuds. These are the TOZO NZ9. I've had a lot of luck with Soundcore in this under $50 range, finding some good Bluetooth earbuds. I really wanted to venture out and test a few other brands. TOZO kept coming up time and time again, so I gave them a shot, and I have to say I'm pretty impressed here. These come out to $28 and have pretty much the full feature set you'd want and expect from Bluetooth headphones. First and foremost is the noise canceling. It was surprisingly great on these for that really low price point. I haven't found a lot of options under $40 that really offer that. There's also a normal mode without the noise canceling and a transparency mode. Transparency mode, as expected with basically anything that's not AirPods, was a little subpar but serviceable enough. You can toggle between really easily with the touch controls along with playing and pausing and skipping tracks, stuff like that. They use Bluetooth 5.3. The overall build quality feels pretty good. It's definitely a little lighter weight than you would expect from something a bit more premium, but definitely is not something to complain about here. The overall case size itself is extremely small, much smaller than AirPods and most of the other options. There is actually a screen display on the outside that shows the battery percentage. It's a nice touch, but feels a little unnecessary at this price point. Maybe you could have put the cost somewhere else. Nevertheless, it's there and it is somewhat convenient. The earbuds themselves are also quite small. I found them to be extremely comfortable. You get a few different size options in the case, so you can kind of get them fit to your ears. They're IPX6 water resistant. The case is USB-C rechargeable, and with the charging case, you get up to 60 hours of battery life. All of that stuff is really great at a $28 price point. The sound quality is where they fall short just a little bit. The sound is plenty serviceable, especially when you think about the price. I try and keep that in mind because I'm used to much more expensive headphones, but it is definitely not going to blow you away. The bass feels pretty loud and controlled, but the mids and the highs just kind of lack some presence and clarity. That being said, they're $28 and I think they sound perfectly fine. They're not going to compete with $150, $200 headphones or anything. I think they're somewhere in between, on Soundcore's lineup that I'm more familiar with, somewhere in between the P20i and the P40i. So if you want something that's a step up from that $20 range with the P20i, check these out, but I would probably recommend stepping up an extra $10 for that P40i. Nevertheless, headphones in this price bracket have gotten so great over the last few years, you really can't go wrong. Next up, we've got some for the Apple Watch. This is the KeyBudz Journey Series Apple Watch strap. I've had this for the past several months. They actually sponsored a video a while back, and I am still extremely impressed with the overall quality here. These straps are on sale right now for $30 on Amazon, and I think they feel good enough to compete with OEM options that are in a $50 to $100 price point. First off, the orange I think looks so great. They have a few other color options too, but I am a bit partial to orange for my watch straps. It's made of FKM rubber and feels really premium, definitely a step up from silicone straps and things like that. It's extremely comfortable and 100% waterproof, which is really nice, if you're doing sports and stuff like that. But I always bring it up, washing your hands and doing the dishes. Nothing is worse than a wet cloth strap that you have to carry around all day long. So not having to worry about that is great. Aside from the FKM, the hardware is an aluminum alloy. It's been holding up really well for me this year since I got my Apple Watch Ultra. Can't say enough good things about it. Check it out if you're in the market for a new strap for your Apple Watch. Got a utility blade up next. This is the Gerber EAB Lite. I've had this thing for a number of years and always recommend it if you're looking for something a little bit more sleek than some of the other utility blade options. I always kind of call this a budget substitute to my Peachy G9. That's a gravity knife utility blade that's all metal. This feels similarly premium at like $14 or $13, I think it is right now. It weighs 70 grams. It's 2.8 inches when it's closed and 5.1 inches when it's fully opened. The body is made of a sort of skeletonized stainless steel. It's a standard size utility blade, so it's easily swappable. You have a little screwdriver here, so it's not completely toolless, but still very easy and simple. It uses a liner lock to stay open. You have a really great pocket clip on the outside. Not much else to say about that. It's a utility blade, very straightforward as to what it is. This is a really good one though that is in a smaller and more sleek form factor than a lot of the other options at a very cheap price. On a similar note, up next we have the Nextool Mini Flagship Multitool. I'm still mourning the loss of the discontinuation of the Leatherman Squirt PS4. It is one of my favorite small multi-tools. Luckily, I still have mine and it's great and excellent, but I can't recommend it anymore because it's been discontinued. I'm not sure why they did. That thing is awesome. A lot of people have trouble with the Gerber dime. I personally think it's fine, but I've been looking around for some alternatives out there and came across Nextool as a budget multi-tool option. I have to say I'm pretty impressed with this one. They call it a 10-in-1 multi-tool. Realistically, it's more like 6 or 7, but I do have a few things here that I haven't seen in other small multi-tools like this. You have a set of pliers, which are great, even though they are a little bit thin to keep the size down, but you have this really large set of scissors as well. Usually you kind of get one or the other, or you get a little tiny baby pair of scissors. But in addition to that, you have a regular blade, a can or bottle opener, a nail file, a Phillips head screwdriver, all in this little tiny package. It weighs 80 grams and measures 2.56 inches by 1 inch by 0.6 inches. It's made out of stainless steel. You have this really interesting sort of tri-split design. It's usually only, a single split, but that's how they're able to get the larger scissors in here. So you can flip out both sides to have the pliers and have the scissors. Really interesting design, and I think overall it feels pretty good and premium. I actually did check out a couple of others that I had planned to feature and put in this video, but they really weren't very good and didn't make the cut. I'm always very careful when I make these videos. I want to find some good budget options for everyone, but I don't want to sacrifice quality. So I look for quality stuff, and if it happens to be less expensive, kind of a win-win. This comes out to $30. I do think I would probably personally pick the Gerber dime over this. They're about the same price. The Gerber dime is just a hair smaller. But if you're someone that really wants or would use that larger pair of scissors, this is a no-brainer in comparison. And I think the quality is pretty similar overall, but this one's just a little bit chunkier with that tri-split design. But really impressed, and I'd be curious to know if anyone's tried out any of the larger Nextool options. This was my first one from them, so let me know if you have any experience. I'd love to hear about it. Really quick though, I want to take a minute to talk about my new favorite speakers, the SVS Prime Wireless Pro. SVS was also kind enough to sponsor this week's video as well, so a huge thanks to them. They're a pair of active bookshelf speakers. Not only do they sound absolutely amazing, but they've been super versatile and have a handful of features I rarely see in this category. I've been testing them all over my apartment for the past few months, using them at my desk, at my living room TV, and my record player and vinyl setup. They truly blew me away in each scenario I threw at them, and it made it so hard to pull them down to set them up in a different setup. Each speaker is a 1-inch dome tweeter and a 5.25-inch mid-bass driver with 200 watts of power in total. These things are loud, but still have really incredible clarity and a super wide soundstage from the stereo pair. I've been using them with the 3000 Micro Subwoofer to cover the sub bass and fill out the low end. Words cannot describe how amazing it's been. Such incredible detail for gaming at my desk. The volume and low end made my living room feel like a home theater, and it really brought some of my vinyl to life in a way I hadn't heard before. Sound is only half the story here though. The connectivity is equally impressive. They have all the I/O you could want for desk setup, but you also have HDMI eARC for a TV or theater setup, along with a ton of wireless options. The Prime Wireless Pros are Bluetooth compatible, but also have AirPlay 2, Chromecast, Spotify Connect, even multi-room audio with other DTS Play-Fi devices. They also work for voice commands with Siri, Alexa, Hey Google, perfect for room speakers in your living room or home office or anywhere. Sponsored or not, I truly can't say enough good things about these speakers. I feel like I've ascended into some sort of audiophile paradise, and I don't want to leave. I spend most of my time at my desk, so I think they'll live there long term, but it's such a tough decision. I'm not 100% sure yet. Be sure to check the link in the description down below if you want to check out the Prime Wireless Pros for yourself. Huge thanks again to SVS for sponsoring this week's video. Getting back into some portable audio, these are the CCZ BC04 IEM Headphones. I've had these for a few months now and am absolutely blown away by the quality. IEM stands for in-ear monitors. They are wired headphones, so no Bluetooth here, no wireless options. You have to plug them in. So that comes with some downsides, of course, but But if you're someone that is okay with this, and sometimes it can actually be a benefit, we'll get into that later, these are the most incredible sounding headphones under, $50 that I've tried, and they come out to $19 right now. They use 10mm dual hybrid drivers. You have dynamic drivers that help up the bass levels, but you also have balanced armature, which helps with the overall accuracy, something that's generally more important for IEMs. The result here is incredible. You get really powerful but super controlled bass. You have super crisp and clear and present treble. The mids are good enough. You definitely can feel a little bit of that V curve in there, but these sound so good. I think they rival my Denim Pearl headphones, which are wireless and have a bunch of other features, but are literally, more than 10 times the cost of these. You don't need any fancy amps or DAC systems to power these as well, like other powerful, expensive headphones. They can plug right into anything with the 3.5mm jack. They're super lightweight. They're extremely comfortable. The covers on the outside are a zinc alloy. They feel premium. They look nice. I think these are perfect, if you want some really good audio for, your Switch or your Steam Deck or anything like that, or if you want something just for regular like desktop gaming and can't afford, powerful speakers like we were just talking about. This is a really good alternative if you want to stick with headphones only and don't want big over-ear cans. You have an inline microphone with one, button control that offers some flexibility, but they just sound so good. Very bare bones, no Bluetooth, no noise canceling, transparency, none of that. I think you'll have a really hard time finding anything wireless that will rival this at this price point, but obviously some really big drawbacks. This is not something I would typically want to bring around for my phone, but for all of that other stuff, particularly gaming or anything where wired headphones have a benefit, this is a no-brainer for me. Under 20 bucks, they sound amazing. Bit of a curveball up next. This is my Zojurushi Thermos. This has been in use every single day for the past 9 years since I bought it. It was a daily carry for me back before I worked from home and did this full time, and it's something that I still use every single day when I make my coffee in the morning. I put the extra in here. I've yet to find a better thermos than this at such a great price point. It comes out to $28. You have a 12 ounce or a 16 ounce option. It's 9 inches tall and 2.75 inches in diameter. It's completely leak proof. I can speak to that personally, risking all of my electronics for 9 years, carrying this around my backpack back in the day. You have a physical lock on here as well, so there's no accidental button presses on here. Like I said, bit of a curveball, but for, coffee nerds out there that bring their coffee to work, or if you're trying to save money and not buy coffee when you're out, you're probably bringing a thermos already. Zojurushi stuff, I know everyone loves their rice cookers. I'm not a big rice guy, but I can't speak highly enough of this, and I think 9 years of daily use speaks for itself. If you need a thermos for your everyday carry, this is definitely the one. Got a couple of batteries to talk about up next. First is the Sharge Flow Mini 2. This is a little 5,000 milliamp hour battery that is designed to be able to plug right into the bottom of your phone or device. There are definitely a couple of flaws here, but I think there is far more good than bad if you're looking for a really small and portable battery for your everyday carry. It weighs 100 grams. It comes out to 3.1 inches in length, 1.3 inches tall, and 1 inch wide. Based on the size and shape here, it probably houses a single 21700 battery with the additional housing. What really sets this apart though is the ability to plug it directly into the bottom of your phone. That was what drew me to this, and I have to say this is probably my least favorite function after using it in person, but probably not for the same reasons you might think. It's designed with a bit of a gap on the bottom to accommodate cases, which is good for people with cases, but I tend to not use a case at all, so that little gap makes it feel a little less sturdy, which I don't love. It also kind of throws off the ergonomics of the phone as a whole. I have the 16 Pro Max, which is already gigantic by itself, and you add this battery in and it just feels like it's going to topple over on the top. So I don't really love it for the purpose I thought I would, but I still think it is a really good battery. This USB-C port can actually be fully removed if you want. They also offer the option in the box if you want to swap this out for a Lightning port. So if you have an older iPhone and want to do that, you can definitely swap it out, and you have a built-in Lightning port charger, which is really cool. You also have a built-in additional USB USB-C cable, which I really like. And I think that is going to be the main use for me. Not a ton of power, but it's very small and very lightweight. Comes out to $23, which I think is a perfectly fine price for something like this. I think for the right person, it's perfect. I was a little disappointed to see that the bottom-up charging wasn't as smooth and nice as I had expected, but still definitely worth a look. And maybe you have a smaller phone, or maybe you have a different purpose for it if you want to plug this into something else. Ton of other potential use cases, but really good quality here as well. It's tough to find really budget cheap batteries. A lot of the brands out there on Amazon are trash. I trust Sharge. I have a number of their products I've been using for several years and they're all great. So I trust that this thing isn't going to overheat or blow up or anything like that. And you get a really small form factor battery with a built-in cable. Definitely a lot to love. Another unique battery I had to get a closer look at. This is the JOYROOM Apple Watch charger. This is a 2000 milliamp hour battery with a built-in Apple Watch charger on it. I just never really seen anything like this before and thought it was really clever. For me, it's not really necessary. The Apple Watch Ultra battery is excellent. I know my wife uses an Apple Watch SE and a lot of people use older Apple Watches. Mine will be old in the years to come, I'm sure. So having the option to be able to top it off really quickly when you're out and about, I think is a great idea. I think there's also some benefits here for travel or camping or backpacking or something like that. It's a keychain size, about the size of a key fob. You can throw it in your bag really easy or throw it on your keys really easy and be able to top it off without any issue. You have a built-in display with the battery percentage. The magnet for the Apple Watch charger is definitely enough to lock it in, but it's not enough to lock it in place if you're going to hold it and shake it around or anything like that. It weighs 63 grams and measures 2.8 inches by 1.6 inches by 0.6 inches. You have a USB-C port for charging. It'll only charge at 5 watts though, which is a bit of a bummer. It will support pass-through charging though, so you can charge your watch and the battery at the same time. Just really clever and a little bit more niche than I would typically do for this series, but I thought it was still really cool and I tested it out and everything works as intended and expected, so I thought I would share it along. If anyone has some older Apple Watches and find yourself running out of battery throughout the day. You all know I can't do a budget EDC video without talking about CASIO. I've got a 2-for-1 here, the CASIO LF20W and the CASIO AQ800E. Two of my favorites, both well under $50. Starting with the LF20 though, it weighs 23 grams. It is extremely light, less than an ounce. The actual case diameter is 38 millimeters by 34 millimeters. It definitely wears extremely small. The case and the glass are both made out of resin and the band is made out of a bio-based resin. This is kind of a more digital techie looking version of the classic World Time watch, which is my all-time favorite. The overall design looks super clean and minimal. You have a backlight, but it is the cheaper Casio backlight like on the F91W. You don't get the nice electroluminescence like the A168. Alternatively from this though, you have the AQ800E, which is a long-time favorite of mine. I've had for a few years now. You get this really great analog watch with the graph paper type of aesthetic, and then underneath you have a little digital display. It's just such a cool look and a real standout. Watches like this and my calculator watch get so many more compliments than any other watches that I wear, and they're a fraction of the price on some of them. A little heavier here at 52 grams. The case is 41 millimeters by 32 millimeters. It's a chrome-plated resin with resin glass. Both of these have all of the digital watch functions you'd expect, calendar, stopwatch, alarm, all of that. Can't recommend Casio stuff enough. $20 and $40 for these right now, but there are endless amounts. And you can go back through my old videos too. I've been wanting to do a big roundup of all my Casios and G-Shocks and stuff. That should be coming at some point soon, but that wraps it up for the video today. Hopefully you got some good ideas for your everyday carry. I'd love to hear what you're carrying down below. If you have any recommendations for me to check out for this series. Always on the hunt for some good budget gear to talk about. I've heard you all loud and clear. You love these. I love making them. Thank you so much for watching though, and I'll talk to you in the next one.